That's how's it guys? Welcome back, and here we are, ready for chapter 5. Gonna pop my kettle on. Guys do the same, and off we go. The blessing. I have a client with me who dearly wants to feel the elephants. I think I know what he means, but I know that he has not had enough experience to act naturally around them. I take him down to a waterhole, and at the base of a hollowed out tree, I find a place for him to hide. I push him into the hollow and then sit right in front of him at the base of the tree. I've never tried strangers with my special herd of elephants before. All 9 of them come down to the waterhole almost exactly at 4:30 every afternoon. The matriarch leads them with a new baby of her own and a 4.5-year-old. She comes by and stretches out her trunk towards me in greeting. I speak softly to her and tell her how beautiful she is. She can hear the camera clicking over my shoulder and can smell someone else, but she only sees me. She knows I will not harm her. She knows I will not harm her, but today she will not let her baby come to me. I jiggle the trade beads around my neck, a noise the baby loves, and the baby tries to come to me. Mother keeps the baby away with her trunk and pushes him down towards the waterhole. The other 7 all file past and reach out their trunks toward me. The kettle seemed a bit faster today. As usual. Some lovely Earl Grey tea. Some sugar. I don't have a sugar bowl. Gotta get it straight out of the packet. This is that povo living. It's a hard life. Just another hard day. Right. Let that steep for a bit. And carry on. The other 7 elephants all file past and reach out their trunks towards me, smelling, checking. This is a precious time for me. It took 2 years to get to the place where this one small herd would accept me. I have now earned their trust. The mothers drink and spray water all over themselves. Then they scoop up great globs of mud and throw it on themselves to try and suffocate some of the bugs that live in the cracks of their skin. The matriarch's baby is so small, it doesn't yet know how to use its trunk, and so it gets down on its knees to drink with its mouth. It plays with the older babies, playing pushing games. For about an hour they remain at the waterhole, and then at an unheard signal they all leave together. My camp is about 2 kilometers up the Zambezi River, and on the way back we come across a pride of lions. My client is frightened. Don't worry, I reassure him. They won't hurt you. Yes, I know. If they charge, I must stand behind you and not move. He starts to chuckle and then reaches down and covers his crotch. We both smile and quietly carry on. Now he and 3 of his friends from Holland had come to my camp in the early morning and very politely asked me if I would show them some lions. They had been in Zimbabwe for 2 weeks and only had 1 day left, and the one thing they very much wanted to see was lions in the wild. So far they had been out with the scouts every day, but had not managed to see lions. You know, I've lived in Zimbabwe for like 20-something years, and I still haven't seen lions in the wild. Like, my family have seen them, and friends that come see them. It's like every time my family sees the lions, I'm somehow not with them. That's just my curse. I just haven't seen lions in the wild yet. I've seen cheetah, Seen leopard. Haven't seen lion. Maybe I need to go and find Bull Taylor and get him to show me lions. So they had not managed to see any lions. Godfrey, the receptionist, and also one of the scouts, had told them to find a masango. He will take you to the lions. He has spirits, he informed them. They didn't know what he meant by that, but were soon to find out. Bit of suspense. Just gonna brew my tea. Dash of milk. Right. I told them to be back at my camp at 8 o'clock, which gave me time to have my breakfast. I also knew that the lions would go down to drink and then slowly go back up the dry Mana riverbed about 9 o'clock. By their grunts and roars, it was easy to figure out what they were doing during the night, and therefore know where they would be at what time. By 9 o'clock I had the 4 Holland doctors at the riverbed where I gave them a small lecture. No talking, no smoking. Walk right behind me, and whatever you do, if the lions charge, do not move. Can you do that? They all nodded vigorously. I continued. Male lions weigh from 400 to 550 pounds. When they charge, it is very frightening, and your first urge is to run. Do not run. If you feel like running, hold on to my belt. There is one lioness that has 4 cubs right now, and she will most likely charge us if we are too close. Do you think you can handle that? Again, they all nodded. All of our other guides have guns. Where is your gun? One of them asked. Do you want to see a lion? Oh yes, I was just wondering. We started to walk across the dry riverbed, which was full of clumps of dried panikin grass. When we got to the main riverbed, which was just sand, there was the lioness and her cubs only 50 meters away. Immediately she let out a roar and charged. Don't move, I warned. She will stop, I continued, my voice rising. Don't move, I yelled as the lioness gave a huge spring. As she landed, she came to a complete stop, spraying sand all over us. I crouched down and stared into her angry yellow eyes. You know me, Mama. I also know your husband. A fine big male he is too. Where is he today? Is he already resting upriver, hiding from the sun? My voice showed no fear, and she could not return my stare. Slowly she turned and caught up with her cubs that were still walking steadily up the riverbed. We all stood silently for another 2 minutes until she was out of sight. When I turned, all 4 men were still pale, their mouths hanging, and all 4 had wet their pants. I see you like lions, I chided them. Oh, it was wonderful, marvelous, worth wetting our pants. And they were all talking at the same time and patting me on their back as though I had done it all. After taking one of them to see my special herd of elephants, I was then invited to dinner at their camp. They cooked a fine dinner, and afterwards we sat around the campfire. How do you have so much confidence with the wild animals? They asked. I wanted to tell them about the blessing. Godfrey knew and called it spirits. But what does a European know of African culture and the beliefs we adopt from the time we are children? When I was 7 years old, we had to go to Nairobi to have my eyes tested. Apparently my left eye never developed, and I know this to be true because I have never seen out of it. I didn't need a doctor to tell me this. But we went to the big city anyway. It was the first big city I had been to, and it was all exciting and new. What impressed me most were the weapons that all were carrying. Dad told me all about the Mau Mau. I couldn't wait to get home and make some weapons of my own. That was when I started to hunt when I was 8, and my dog I started to hunt when I was 8 with my dog Buster, and by the time I was 11, I had a gang of about 50 small boys following whenever I went hunting. Our enemies were the teenage boys who lived across the river from the hospital. Since they were so much bigger, their weapons were also a lot bigger. They could throw a longer spear, bigger chunks of stone, and use heavier clubs. But we had the numbers. Our whole strategy was to get them mad and then get them to chase us into a position where we had the height advantage. We would then pelt them with stones and our little grass arrows. As long as we stuck together, we did well. It was when we disbanded that we suffered. I got word one day that the enemy had taken my friend, Bunwa, and were holding him for ransom. I collected my ragtag army, as Dad called them, and headed for the scene. We found them on the edge of a grove of gum trees. There were 15 of them, 50 of us, but they wanted me. "Hey, you white boy," they shouted in Swahili. "You come out and fight with one of us, and we will give you back Bunwa." It sounded too much like David and Goliath all over again. I was to take my pick. I picked the biggest boy who was fully developed. He had a broad chest, lumps and bumps all over him, but a nice big pot belly. He just stood there holding his club. What he didn't know was that I shot a minimum of 100 arrows a day, and even though I would never get any medals for bravery, I would take him down from 20 meters. I had my little bow made from the combretum bush, and the string was a sinew taken from the back leg of a cow. I picked my arrow carefully. It had to be straight, or else it would curve in flight. I came up to a spot I figured to be about 20 meters, which was my killing range when hunting doves, and knelt down. I let fly, aiming for that nice round pot belly of his. It was a bullseye, right in the belly button. The sharpened grass arrow went in about 4 inches. He howled more in amazement than in pain and rolled to the ground. At that moment, my ragtag army charged. The bigger boys were so amazed that they fled. We took Bunwa, who had been slightly bruised, and went off towards the river. "I need to see the witch doctor," moaned Bunwa. "You don't need to see him," I retorted. "You'll only take your money for nothing." "No, I have to see him." That was that. The rest of the boys went home, and Bunwa and I made our way to the witch doctor's village. When we reached the outside of the corral, we shouted our arrival loudly so no one would think we were spying. We clapped our hands softly in the Waha way of greeting, and then sat down to finish the greetings. Greetings have to take a certain length of time before you can state your business. With adults, weather, crops, cattle, children, and wives are mentioned. With children, they just have to sit still and wait until the adult asks what they want. So the two of us sat there in the shade of a banana tree waiting to be spoken to. I didn't like the witch doctor. He had said all kinds of bad things about my father. I think they called it professional jealousy. When we first arrived in the district of Buha, no one would come to the hospital because the witch doctor had told the people that we whites ate them. This could be seen by the bright red blood on the lips of all white women. The blind people with cataracts were worthless anyway, so they came to see what could be done. If they were eaten, it would be no loss. With a manicure set that Dad had been given when he was 16, he performed hundreds of cataract operations. Dad's face was the first human that a lot of those people had ever seen. Once on one of our trips, Dad and I were driving along the Kagera River when a man came running out of the bush and threw himself prostrate in front of our vehicle. Dad brought the vehicle to a skidding halt, calling the man names in Swahili that I can't translate. The man was jabbering incoherently. He was also yelling to his wife and children to come and bring gifts. It was one of Dad's eye patients. We left with a bag of peanuts, a live chicken, a bunch of bananas. I learned how to show proper appreciation from that man. After Dad's success with cataracts, the witch doctor thought of a new plan. He would treat the patients, charge the usual fee, and then send them to Dad. This worked out quite well, except when it came to extracting teeth. The witch doctor would put the head of a nail against the offending tooth, hit the tip with a rock, and break off the crown of the tooth, then send the patient to Dad to remove the roots. Eesh. This didn't amuse Dad in the least, but the two of them had seemed to come to some sort of agreement. I still didn't like the man, as he never smiled and had a strange aura about him. We were summoned to his hut. It was smoky and dark, and Bunwa and I sat on the floor. Bunwa related the story of how the older boys had taken him and beaten him. He wanted a special spirit to direct him so that they would not catch him again. The witch doctor may as well not have even heard what Bunwa had to say. The whole time he was just staring out the entrance of his hut, watching a chicken pecking at termites. His reply came as quite a surprise. "You, white boy, son of the white doctor of Manyovu," he addressed me in Swahili. "You will spend your life working and walking with wild animals. They will never hurt you. You have nothing to fear from the animals." He was chanting in a low, monotone voice. "But there is something you can never do. You are never to kill a spotted cat. No leopard, no cheetah, no serval. You can kill all the rest, but not the ones mentioned." "What of the civet cat?" I whispered, remembering that it also had spots. "That is not a cat." To show his disgust at my ignorance, he spat on the cow dung floor of his hut. Bruno and I each clapped our hands softly 3 times and then left. Even though Bunwa had not had a word said to him, he was quite satisfied that he too had received a blessing. And to think that old dummy didn't think a civet was a cat, I mused to myself. However, in spite of how dumb I thought the witch doctor was, I never killed a spotted cat. I've walked unharmed through prides of lion, herds of buffalo, spent days with elephant, canoed the Kazinga Channel between Lake George and Lake Edward through an estimated herd of 5,000 hippo, and have never been harmed. I've taken biologists on safari, and they tell me I have a confidence that the animals sense, and that's why they leave me alone. I, however, know better. I was given a book, The Safari Companion by Estes, a few years ago. It's a great book on animal behavior, and I've read it several times cover to cover. When I got to the section about civet cats, imagine my surprise when I read that they were part of the mongoose family. Oops, sorry for thinking that you were a dummy for 37 years, but how did you know? Monty Jenkinson is a professional hunter and his speciality is leopards. We walk on my game ranch together sometimes. We have both seen how big the leopards are there, one male weighing an approximate 220 pounds. I told him about the time I went into a cave and the male was in there. He made an absolute terrible racket and I slowly backed out of the cave and left. Monty says I'm completely mad, but then he doesn't know about the blessing. Alright, that was a bit of a longer chapter, but very enjoyable. So, good night, sleep well, and I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 6.